everyone. Last panel. So we can just introduce ourselves, but first, I just want to get 2 or 3 people saying what you
one
hope.
man on the panel, though.
Huh?
Mayor,
yes.
Mayor, come on up.
Pick a man, any man.
No, he's an impact fund.
That's even better. That makes more sense. So while he's walking up here, we can just get 2 or 3 people to quickly say what you hope we talk about, like challenges that you see and something you hope we talk about as far as optimizing philanthropy and like philanthropy and next gens. So anyone? Yes.
So how do you bridge the gap between the baby boomers and the next gen and get them into philanthropy?
Cool. How do you bridge the gap between baby boomers and next gen and get them baby boomers or them next gens into philanthropy? Next gens into philanthropy. Something over here?
How do you get groups like this that have massive capital behind them to actually focus on areas instead of spreading it all around like manure on the farm and not getting the benefits from it that we need?
I like that. So how do you focus your philanthropy enough to actually make a difference instead of spreading a little bit everywhere and hence not really focusing on changing anything? One more. Anyone have one more? Yes. My front row is awake.
So what is the most impactful thing to focus on, to follow up on his question?
I like that. All right. And for the panelists, what is the most impactful thing to focus on? All right. So, well, I'll just say super briefly, I'm Tammy. Some of us from this panel are here. Some of us are new and are going to be Sophia and Tracy today. So you guys, you decide which one you are. But in the meantime, I speak a lot on aligning financial returns and impact results. But I also speak on impact across asset classes and how we do charity dead wrong from a measurement perspective and impact, and how we focus often on outcomes, on outputs instead of outcomes. So we can get into that if we want, but I'm a partner at LOHAS where we help people who are doing raises tap into donor-advised fund capital, so blending philanthropy into the capital stack as money is getting cut. As we know, women and minorities get 2% of Silicon Valley funding. So where is that funding going to come from? And some of it comes from people, for better or worse, often think of women and minorities as, oh, that's positive impact. It's helping some women's thing. Hi, Iva, come join. Or helping minorities is like an impact thing. So you can tap into donor-advised funds, put them in the capital stack to accelerate the raise and adjust the beta, so that it isn't perceived as risky. So we can get into that. And then I have my own company, NextGen Success, that specifically works on aligning wealth and impact.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy. My name is Anita McDowell. I hold a doctorate in educational leadership from Southern New Hampshire University. I did research in the area of emotional disabilities. I just founded an organization called Kinder, KYND-ER, to, yeah, thank you. Because we don't reach the kiddos that fall off the rails in schools. And so I hope to talk a little bit about that and also about just education in general.
Oh, I'll pick up on that. I'm Iva Kaufman. I have a blended practice working with large-scale nonprofits, in particular right now, the Global Mental Health Task Force, in association with the UN and Kinder Foundation. And the was Resilience Innovation Fund, now Hub out of Houston, now is Future Proofing America. We're working on the resilience zones across the country and adaptive strategies and moving a blended capital stack. In the middle, I advise in philanthropy with family offices and foundations, and I'm a member of the P150 Philanthropy Advisors Group, stood up by Eric and Wendy Schmidt. That's 400 advisors from mostly the US and around the world who are advising the most high net worth individuals and really doing some incredible grant making. So if you have questions and you want to do more grant making and you want to have an affinity with folks who are doing things very powerfully at a large scale, I'll be happy to make introductions there. And lastly, we have a group of startup companies in our, about 6 companies in our portfolio. I'll just say one of them, Cytokine, was the feature story of Scientific American in the June issue on Is the Sun Good for You? Yes, it is. UV light's also good for you. And read the story. So I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Welcome to the panel.
Hey everyone, I'm Wendy Diamond. I'm part of a family office. We're invested like 60 funds in every asset class. We're also in about, I don't know, maybe 50 startups, but we, investing in startups, we go deep impact. So it's everything from healthcare, that solved the third largest death rate, infections. They created the visible light to prevent any infection in catheters and dialysis. So we just raised $30 billion. We don't need any more money, and Mayo Clinic's behind us. And we're going to literally solve the third largest death rate in the world. And that was founded by a 73-year-old woman. Isn't that cool? Anyway, and then, but we're in a lot of really deep.
So anyone is 70 or under, there is still time.
Yes.
They're a third of the world.
We call them seasoned, like really experienced. All right, and then we're in another. I'm very into pets. And I will do anything to keep pets living healthier and longer lives. And we invested in another company called, there you go. Woohoo! He's not doing his job, Brian, come on. But anyways, it's called PhytoCure, and they have so talking about AI, they have 9 billion data points. It's basically 1 out of 3 dogs get cancer. It targets the cancer and the treatment, and it's now extending dogs' lives by 4 times. And they just got approval for human trials. They just raised $80 million. So that's another one we're in. And then more importantly, I have a foundation. It's called Women's Entrepreneurship Day Organization. We're in 100 countries. It's an official day on November 19th, Women's Entrepreneurship Day. So if you're an entrepreneur, which you should be now because you got to survive, or an entrepreneur, you should celebrate if there's anybody you know in your life. But we bring governments, business leaders, civil society, entrepreneurs, investors together to collaborate to find solutions to economically empower women to start their entrepreneurial journeys. And we just launched a program to teach 1 million impoverished and disadvantaged women to start to learn AI. And we have 2,100 girls in Afghanistan now going through the program. There you go.
I don't know. Can you hear me? Because I have a very soft voice. I know. I can't project.
You can.
I cannot.
Here, stand here so they can at least see you. Step out of the
This is not
shadow.
oh my gosh.
There you go.
Okay. Well, this is into the blinding light. Okay. So to go off Wendy though, that we do thing is very impactful. But I'm not really going to talk about impact investing. It's more so like talking about the things that we whisper about, the hard things in family offices. My dad stepped down as patriarch because he has dementia, and I just had to take over the role as principal. It wasn't a ceremony. There was no formal title. There's no playbook. You're dealing with grief. You're dealing with just a lot of things. And I feel like a lot of people tiptoe around these things that happen all the time. There's siblings fighting. There's people dealing with losses. And I think that we should really make it a really big movement to actually just bring this up. It's not pleasant speaking, but we really need to talk about it. It affects every single person in this room. It really does. And it's going to hit you when you don't even expect it. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. You don't get this. You don't get this again. You get it.
Hello, everyone. So I run an impact fund, an impact venture capital fund. So really looking at all of this, I guess, from a different lens, but we're really big advocates of the intersection of profitability and sustainability. I find that, running an impact fund, often there's a bit of a stigma as to, can you actually make money in the space? And to be honest, a lot of early investors in the climate space have not done well, have not had success. So there's definitely, I think, a lot of branding that needs to be done. But I also believe that to truly have impact, you need to scale. Otherwise, if you have the most impactful business in the world, but it's not hitting a lot of customers, you're not having any impact at all. So the intersection really makes a lot of sense, and happy to share a couple of investments we've made that are very much aligned with that. Great to be here. Thanks.
Can you give us one example of it, whether it's an investment you made or just another example? Maybe if we can go down really quickly, an example of something that's impact aligned, that's an investment, again, whether it's yours or someone else's, but that makes outsized alpha. So outsized return, but that's a solid impact story, just so people can think that.
Yeah, sure. Our last investment is exactly that. So we invested in a company that is essentially an AI SaaS platform that does wildfire prevention. So they effectively could protect communities that are most highly prone to wildfires with technology. And so They've modeled out, for example, the LA fires that happened a couple of months ago, but they could effectively save $40–50 billion in infrastructure losses, protect families, protect communities, but also have incredible scale. This is a business that went from 0 to 5 million in revenue in 24 months.
So did they model it before the fires happened? Because I feel like they didn't do a good job protection.
So this is a company that modeled out. So they do modeling and they also do response and prevention, but it's on the municipalities to build that prevention, right? So they'll give you the model and the solutions, and they had it modeled out, but the municipality didn't apply it. Also, they don't really cover. I mean, I get into the weeds of it, but you know, there's like certain jurisdictions they cover, certain they don't. All this to say, though, it's a perfect example of a company that's going to hit 100 million in revenue, that protects communities, does good, and saves lives. So there you go.
Amazing. Thank you. Find the example.
I already gave a couple, but
One
more. Okay.
A really fast
A
one.
fast one. Okay. I invested in pre-seed, and here we go again. Base Pause. It was the 23andMe for pets, but they were selling all the data to the health food companies, for the pet health companies and the pet food companies. And what it was doing was that they were like literally making food as well as healthcare so that the pets could live longer and healthier lives. And how was that? Did well. It was they exited 40x to Zoetis. So now Zoetis is leading that charge and literally have changed all their products to basically help pets live longer and healthier lives. Happy's very excited about that.
One was actually, it had to do with my dad's health, and it was Life Active Bio. So it was, they finally figured out how to permeate the skin with a shower serum, and it would go into your blood, bypass your liver, and it could help with cognitive health and everything. They're really in the early stages. They have to patent some things. And then there's Dollar Donation Club. Selena Gomez, I want to say, is doing it. And it's for mental health awareness. So, I mean, someone's laughing in the audience. I don't know what she has to say about it, but okay. Fun. But yes. Anyways.
No, that's great. And I'm so sorry about your dad.
No, it's fine. It's just alpha is different in different ways. Like,
Yeah.
It's either you can sleep at night or you.
That's impressive. So I'll just give an example that's not even one of mine or one of my clients that is under NGA. But instead, for example, if you, as an angel or VC investor, invest in the IP that doubles the density of batteries, that then doubles the range of every single EV, or the life of the amount of power in every single solar panel, that is a solid impact play. And that, if you invest in that IP, that's a unicorn. Does that make sense? So there's lots of things to look for that are solidly both, that are not trade-offs.
The kids are the investment.
There we go. Going back, now we're circling, we're going to get to the questions.
They are the future. Thank you for the word, but I really want to just tell you a story. Just a couple of quick examples. An adolescent boy curled up in the fetal position under a countertop in a classroom. A little kindergarten-age child stripping herself and sitting alone in a seclusion classroom, locked, which of course I reported. Kids in a residential facility, little elementary school kids living there. And because they couldn't make it in a regular public school based on their behavior, now they're subject to all kinds of behavioral interventions that border on cruelty in some situations, and I'm really going to just be real with you. I'm not ambitious. I have a mission-driven idea. And if you're interested in changing the lives and trajectories of little kids, teenagers, and future societal contributors, please think about talking to me about Kinder.
And is that a nonprofit?
And that's the
or
impact. It's going to be a for-profit. I'm in the middle of trying to make it a Delaware entity just because I think it could be global. it's emotional approaches to emotional disabilities instead of behavioral approaches.
Just give them the statistic of how many kids and how many incarcerated people you've worked with, just to give them a sense.
But more than that, what's the structure?
Yeah,
what's the revenue structure?
Yeah, because it's.
I have a handout on that.
Just,
I don't want to.
no, just the 2 seconds so that people understand how it's a.
Okay. About 11% of the kids in the United States that are identified with disabilities are in the bucket of emotionally disabled. And that is actually an area of disability that is under-identified in the United States. So that's really not a very real picture. Every school in this country, and I suspect in other countries as well, has the conundrum of how to integrate kids that are challenged because they are disruptive, because they can't manage social skills in the classroom environment, and because they are traumatized or depressed or even suicidal. It's more boys. But it's very important that you also consider the impact on girls. So anyway, this financial structure is to be determined. I have a basic handout of what I'm looking, just seed money really, 300K if you, I don't know if I'm not allowed to even say that, forgive me, but it.
Just maybe like what kind of profile people are you looking for to help you?
The ones that believe in it. Don't do this if you don't believe in it. I'm only doing this because I realized in my doctoral work, I did a meta-analysis, which is a quantitative study. It's not a survey interview type of research. My studies were mined from the What's Works Clearinghouse database, which is already highly rigorously reviewed. And so the criteria just to get into that database was very high, and those were the studies I drew from with my net. I captured 5 studies, which is technically meets the definition of a small study meta-analysis, and ran the numbers and I looked at functional behavioral assessment-based interventions effect on kiddos that are emotionally disruptive, and whether they're on task.
I would love to
Yeah.
Because my son went to Wilderness and Fairfield Forest School, and he's back.
Yeah.
He's back. I
Yeah.
got lucky because I was able to provide for that. And
Yeah.
so many people can't do that, so this resonates. So
Yeah. Thank you.
12, COVID was not good for 12 and 13-year-olds.
And I'm sorry I got one.
You guys tell them to stay in one place. It's not with boys. They don't. Their brains don't click on the function. I want to hear from Ida.
Tammy, what should I talk about?
I picked an example that actually wasn't.
I'm going to pick a philanthropic example. I'm going to pick an example of how in 1990 one donor consistently put in 25 and 50K amounts to what was then the People's Decade for Human Rights Education. It became the People's Movement for Human Rights Learning, and it became the underpinning for human rights and the interrelated nature of the SDGs. So that was one donor who kept persisting with a few governments. Most other donors, what's human rights? What's human rights learning? Why do we need it? So I just want to give this one example of Daniel Solomon, who really stepped in. An entire framework for the world was changed because one person, not even knowing what really was going to be the impact, but just with his instinct, was able to proceed with the right leaders and great result.
So moving on, I'm going to give an example of a pet peeve of mine in impacting how people do it and how to do it better, and then as an example for you guys to each see what that seeds in your head that kind of goes to some of what was coming up also. So for me, one of my pet peeves, often when I speak, I lecture at HBS and some other academic places as well as the UN, and I start with a pop quiz. So I'm going to give you the 1-minute first question. Super easy. First question starts with impact. So what's the same about these 4 things on the charity side? So Go and regularly serve food at the local homeless veterans food pantry. Text money to the Red Cross for temporary shelters after an earthquake or hurricane wipes out hundreds of thousands of homes. Rescue children from sex trafficking. So what's the same about those three things? Helping people in need. What else? You're doing it yourself. You're taking an action. Anything else? One last thing. All right, so you feel good, you help others, but the other thing that's the same about all three of those and many other examples, network effect, and all of them have organizations with administrative overhead, which they should, because people doing that work should get paid. But more importantly, all three of those examples keep the status quo and solve absolutely nothing. Think about that. If you serve people food at the local homeless veterans food pantry, we already know with a little bit of mental health intervention, a bunch of them are out of line next year. And with a little bit of vocational training, even more are out of line next year. And if all you're doing is feeding them, then your intervention at scale ensures that all of them are in line needing you next year. And it feels really good. And it looks like really great impact in the moment. And their annual reports would be really good. But actually, if you survey those people, not all of them want to be in line needing you, right? And then I'll skip, I can go through each of them, but we'll just do sex trafficking, because that's where people spend a lot of money. If you rescue children from sex trafficking and you do not change the demand curve, you just got other children kidnapped. And often it's actually those children that get brought into the police, and then you leave, the people rescuing them, who are rescuing them, leave, and then the traffickers go bribe the police, and it's actually those kids that are right back the next day. So we need to ask better questions and do better things. So my example, and I can't foresee everything. I expect other people to come up with better examples, but like at a bare minimum, who's familiar with tithing, right? Tithe 10%, church, temple, whatever it is. Anyone not? I see some hands not up. So if you think about tithing, we need to feed people starving today. We need to rescue children from trafficking today and give people homes that just lost their homes by the hundreds of thousands after a storm. But what if every time you feed a crisis, you tithe 10% to fixing the underlying problem? So what could that look like? If you're donating your time at the homeless veterans food pantry, what if you donate 1 hour a week or 1 hour a month to resume training at that food pantry? Right? So it's just a mindset shift. Or if you are a family office, an individual, wealthy individual that's giving $10,000, $100,000, $1 million to an Operation Underground Railroad or other similar rescue organization, then you have the money to say, I want to write this check. I need to talk to the CEO and find out where you're spending 10% of your budget on closing this gap. And it could be on the back end on making sure there's prosecutions, but what's even better than that? I will quote Paul Hutchinson, who has done a lot of work in this.
For example, some people that have been sex trafficking victims, employing them, giving them,
yes,
giving them a different path.
Right, giving them some other opportunity.
Or prisoners, giving them a
100%. Recidivism happens when you don't let prisoners get jobs. Yes.
Or it's impact investing.
Exactly.
Because you don't have to go back to the well. So MIT technology that actually cures malaria without crushing down a tree to get this one little piece of bark, because you get, but you're an impact fund, and then
Yep, and that's so if people can, so pet peeve and a way to solve it differently. Anything in the impact space.
I mean, so I do teach financial literacy to domestic violence survivors, but they come and go. So that's really hard to see.
Yeah.
Like, in a few weeks, they'll be gone, and you're like, okay.
but some of them don't, right?
There are some that have, completely cut off, but, that's the number one way that men can control a female sometimes. Maybe not Wendy or something, but, But
So I was at a women's battered shoulder legal aid in Michigan, and this woman I had, my client, I was second year, the guy hung her dog, right? Just who does that? Because we issued a restraining order, and but that doesn't deter us. We keep going, and
No, you like find it as
You find
love.
deep contact
It's just
classes with-
narcissistic abuse syndrome.
So just, you're gonna make a lot of, it's gonna be tough.
There's at least one person that walks away with something good.
Yeah.
I have to look at it that way because it was like tough in the first few months.
So is there an example of like if you could have people do something a little bit better?
I
You
think
know,
like
on the
tying it
support
with
side?
mental health, like because you need to understand you're under narcissistic abuse and you're being gaslit, and we've pretty much all been there.
Tammy,
Yeah.
I think what you said, it's brilliant, it's interesting, but in the reality of the current day, when USAID gets dismantled 99%,
Did
and
Rob
there's
just
already 10
interrupt
million
me?
lives being lost, and people can't do much about it. The argument on the other side is that people are involved doing something. That's at least something. If we get into micromanaging that involvement, we may lose them. So I'm just saying on the other side, we gotta be careful.
I don't understand.
I think Tammy is pointing out the difference between charity and change, between service, social service, and transformational things that get to the root
What's the
cause.
children's
And
health,
vis-a-vis the
children's
situation
cancer?
where we have USAID and all of these
They only use 2%.
large structures being
It's a normal
dismantled,
thing.
the people aren't going away, the experts aren't going away, and the mandate really should be for those who can step in to step in. And I think our friend.
Yeah, and something you said which is so important is how helping can hurt, right? I don't feed homeless. Why? I worked on the streets with the homeless for 7 years. The first year I gave money to all my homeless guys, I realized at the end of the year they were going downtown to cop drugs, so I could effectively be killing them. And so I changed everything, and then I took them out every day, and we went to lunch, right?
That's amazing, yeah.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
from my understanding.
And absolutely, and Rob, just to that, and I'll pass it back. We'll keep going down, but I want to say because of USAID, it's even more important that our dollars are more effective. Because right now we are kicking the can down the road, whether it's on homelessness or on food insecurity or on sex trafficking or on a million other things, by doing things that feel good and look good in the day but change nothing. And the really easy, and then we're going to pass it to others, is a question that you can ask to do your quick audit is, with my intervention at scale, 3 years from now, is this problem the same size, larger, or smaller? And if it is the same size or larger, sex trafficking, with all the work done by a lot of different organizations and hundreds of millions of dollars, and Tony Robbins and a gazillion other people, and Operation Underground Railroad, and lots of people raising awareness and raising funds. 10 years ago, when Paul Hutchinson and others started doing it, he was one of the focuses of Sound of Freedom, there were 8 million children being trafficked. With all that money and all that awareness and all that everything, there are now 10 million children being trafficked. We are not doing it right. And with things like USAID getting cut, is more important than ever to shift our thinking of people in this room, people with money and people with connections.
Maybe, I'm just curious for like an impact investor, not that you aren't on it.
So go on to.
Oh, him. I didn't know who to
I know.
give it to.
So
I'm looking for, because you're one of the solutions, to the extent that you can find some solutions, you may want to speak to that.
I mean, so the way we look at it is, I mean, there's kind of triple layered, triple bottom line, as we like to call it. So firstly, yes, we do run an impact fund, so we're looking for solutions that could do good. So we call conscious capital. And I think that there needs to be a lot of transparency and quantification around that. So I always tell my investors, you're going to get an ROI, but you're also going to get a CROI, a carbon return on investment. So you'll know at the end of every year how much CO2 has been removed with your dollars. The third layer that I add on as well is, because I have a bit of a, call it, captive audience, which is my LP base, I am also getting involved with various philanthropic causes. One, for instance, that it speaks to my heart is helping underprivileged children in my community. And so opening that up, because at the end of the day, there is strong access to capital amongst any VC fund. And if you don't ask, you don't get. But try it out and see if there's other people that could get involved. And I think you could have a triple layer impact above and beyond just financial returns that really brings it back to the local community and to a lot more granularity. So that's how I look at it from an impact lens. But yeah.
So some of it's on tracking. I'm sure that Wendy can come up with some examples, but some of it's on tracking here, right, and reporting.
Yeah, otherwise,
Right.
how do we track?
She's been chomping.
What you measure,
She's
you measure.
chomping.
I just like, okay, because, all right, so I created Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization in 2013 when I ended up in Honduras on vacation, and I didn't realize it was the murder capital of the world. And literally, you know, of course I went there still. Anyway, but fast forward, I ended up volunteering for an organization that gave microloans to poor women. I've never done anything unless I really felt it, saw it, and et cetera. And I was supposed to spend a couple hours and meet the women that received these $100 microloans. I ended up spending 3 days on a dirt floor. I met all the women. I learned all about the statistics of women in business. At that time, literally nobody was talking about women entrepreneurs or women in business. UN Women didn't have any initiatives for women entrepreneurs, et cetera, nor did US State Department or anything. So I decided to create a day in the world because I knew when women are empowered in business and they earn money, 90% of that money goes to educate their children, provide for their families, right? When women are empowered in business, they have self-confidence, they have dignity. They do not allow human rights violations, right? So that's when I came back to, you know, America, and I basically created an official day in the world, and that's why, you know, we're recognized all around the world. But a lot of the things that we are focused on is literally teaching entrepreneurship, giving a hand up, not a hand out, and teaching these tools. Because if we do that, like, you know, we have a program that we fund helping incarcerated women in prison. It's 84% successful. Literally, we pay as taxpayers $100,000 a year for these people to be in prison. This program costs $2,000 per person.
$500,000 to be in Rikers in the jail, free trial.
It's $100,000 a year for somebody who is actually in prison across the country. Anyways, so by doing this, you know, funding this program, we also, our foundation created the first ever Women in Disability Startup Cohort to help disabled women become entrepreneurs. And that now is funded by Google for startups around the world. So like teaching these tools and skills is the key. You know, giving money to, like, you know, is not going to change the world, or giving a sandwich or et cetera. But if we can teach the tools and educate people.
But I like something that you said to segue from the last panel, of sometimes if you seed something and you seed the proof of concept, then it can go on to a Google.
Yeah, exactly.
So going from what the last panel was talking about, where it's not, the companies won't necessarily pick up the slack right now for what's getting slashed, but if you see things that are getting slashed and you see a way to do it better, you can take that and grow it enough to get their attention and then hand it off.
And this is another thing with AI. I mean, AI is one of the greatest tools we have. We can either look at it as a positive or a negative, right? Everything in our minds is the way we see, think, and feel. We can either see it's the greatest thing in the world or the worst thing in the world, right? But AI is changing so many things. Like, one of the companies we invested in is called MyIDA. It basically has, I think, 12 billion data points from, you know, Johns Hopkins and Harvard Medical School. And it's actually the AI. The future will be when it gets approved, you know, by the FDA and everything. But it's now for any therapist. And literally, you know, mental health, like when, you know, people don't have money to go see a therapist, right? But now the AI can go, you can, you know, talk to the AI. The AI goes through all these data points to give you the best treatment, right? So enabling these kind of tools is the key, I think, to everything.
Thank you.
Yes. Here, step into the light also.
Okay,
so people can see you.
So AI could be used with my program as well. However, I would do it with some reservation, just simply because authenticity is so critical when working with kids that are messed up in their emotions. And I know that connectivity with another human being is so transformative for the child, and that's actually quite a bit of the type of training that I would give others who take this approach and believe in it. I had the blessing and privilege to talk a little bit with Britt before this panel, and I was just really moved that Haven does, at a very young age, much of what I'm thinking works for older kids. So I'm going to go see her tomorrow and watch what they do. But I just thank you all for letting me talk to you. And I think, again, the impact really has to do with making that connection with the kid. The kid's going to come back and thank you. It happens over and over.
We're gonna move into breakouts, but we could have even like this. But here's the point. We're gonna like do the breakouts now. We could even, I'll announce where they are, but we can just announce this. This is where like the philanthropy area will be, unless you really want to be outside.
Good.
But I just sort of like, let's just make this here. Any last questions? If not, this is where these questions will be discussed.
And because it's something we didn't discuss, one of the first things I proposed for the breakout is talking about specifically NextGens and philanthropy, some of that bridging as far as how boomers and all of us in between that view philanthropy versus NextGens, and do they see it better, worse, different? So we'll start with that.
And you're in charge next year too from the very beginning. I love this.
Yes.
Good questions, good thing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
So again, just take a break, go get a refreshment, go walk outside, go meet people, and we're going to show you where the breakouts will be, but I'll do that in 10 minutes.
10 minutes, all right. A little bit of a break.
Come join our 361 Firm community of investors and thought leaders. We have a lot of events created by the community as we collaborate on investments and philanthropic interests. Join us.